Hey everyone, it's CCYamato here. I'm wearing my editor hat today because I am working on a side project aside from Keepers of the Clow. It's a thing that is honestly just as important to me as that project. It is a process where I am trying to get Cardcaptors updated to a visually modern format. So what that means is right now I have a large amount of Cardcaptors here in this 1080p format. I don't remember exactly where I got all of these from. They were picked up, I think, from getting off of YouTube and getting off of the Internet Archive. I have a large amount of these episodes, but you can see I don't have all of them, and there were some gaps. I have been filling in those gaps. You can see here 10, 13, and 14. If we go over here to my VHS versions, I actually have the entire series on some form of VHS quality. And then you can see it goes all the way up to episode 70. But I want it to look good because I want it to look updated and modern. Like the VHS quality is very nostalgic, don't get me wrong. I grew up in that era. But, you know, people like higher graphical fidelity. So I have been working on getting the series brought up to a modern format by merging the audio from my VHS and DVD quality rips with 1080p versions that are pulled off of the Blu-rays from, I believe, the NIS America Blu-rays, but I'm not entirely sure. The point is that I have 1080p footage off disc, and that is what I'm combining the audio from the old episodes for and putting it on the cleaned up, nicer looking animation. And in the process of doing that, I've learned some interesting, or I've seen some interesting quirks and gotten kind of an insight into how this dub was made, the kind of editing trickery that had to go into making it. And I thought I would share that with you. I'm picking episode 14 because it's so far the episode that's had the most cuts, edits, and actual creative, like, reworking out of the 3 episodes that I've done so far. So before I get to talking about any of this, I want to talk about something even more basic than editing, and I want to talk about the aspect ratio. Now, I want to caveat this by saying that I am a very, very amateur editor. I'm not, like, super in the know about visual editing, and I'm not good at colors and stuff. But I know a few things. I've watched a few Phelan videos. I've picked up a few keywords. So let's just talk about, like, let's talk about the kind of things he does when he's talking about the different versions of Ghostbusters and talk about the various versions of Cardcaptors that I have. So, first off, what we're looking at here is 4:3 aspect ratio. That is the standard animation ratio that was the norm in the 90s and 2000s before we went to widescreen, where we went to 16:9. We were here in 4:3. And what we have here in the Blu-ray footage is I have true 4:3. Now, why do I say that? Well, because I've been using, or rather, when I was taking it off the DVD, I noticed something interesting. What we have here is we have the DVD quality on top, but over here we see that there is some extra overlap over here. What is this? This is the Blu-ray footage. If we take this away and we use this one instead, I've got it a little closer. So here we go. I've actually used Windows Basic editor here to show that this is 4:3, this box going around the actual footage from the Blu-ray. Here is the DVD footage, and you notice that it's a bit short. So I can show you that more dramatically. If we go over here to my DVD footage, we pop over here. All right, so here we go. There's the scene where Lee and Sakura are face to face. Right here, we have the DVD quality on here. Now, if I come over here and I start to lower the opacity of the top layer here so that this becomes more transparent, we go see the DVD, the Blu-ray layer underneath, you're gonna start to see it kind of widen out. So there you can kind of dramatically see how the DVD footage is compressed horizontally to kind of push everything together. You're not actually changing anything about the scene so much, you're just dragging and pulling across a little bit. Now, why they did this, I'm not sure. It turns the DVD footage into not true 4:3, and like I said, it results in this slight amount of horizontal compression, and that's what happened. Or like the result is that what you get is like longer faced Tori. It doesn't seem like that much, but it's noticeable to me. One of the other things you'll also notice, besides just the sharpness of the lines, you'll notice that there's a considerable difference in the color gradient. It's been pointed out to me that the Blu-ray footage, for whatever reason, kind of has its reds oversaturated. So there's a bit of a red tint over everything compared to the DVD version, which seems to either have its red turned down or have its green and blue pushed up. Now, to be honest, I don't find this to be too much of a problem. Like the whites of her socks are still white. I consider this to still be acceptable, but in talking to some members in the community, I have noticed that there is this red tint is noticed, and it does bother some people. It doesn't bother me. That's a conversation for another time, but it's just another interesting aspect. I haven't edited enough episodes to see if this is really a thing that is just a artifact of this DVD rip. This DVD rip comes from the Australian DVDs, Volume 4, but I haven't looked at some of my other VHS rips closely to see if this same color issue exists in those. So let's talk about some of the interesting editing that went into making this episode from Cardcaptor Sakura into Cardcaptors. And the first thing I'm just going to focus on is this little bit of editing here. Obviously, in the late 90s, early 2000s, when Cardcaptors was dubbed, they usually went out of their way to get rid of as much Japanese as possible, because obviously their audience in North America, United States, and Canada weren't going to be able to read Japanese. So they either made an effort to cut out the Japanese wherever possible, or if they couldn't really avoid it, they would actually edit the scene. So you can see in the DVD version from Australia, they actually changed the ticket. So there it is right there in Japanese, and they actually added an English layer over it. They more or less repainted it to call it Readington High School Cultural Fest. There you go. So an interesting little thing. I really wanted to try and bring this over to the Blu-ray footage, but I'm really not skilled enough to kind of color match this to get it over there. I mean, it's possible. I suppose I could try and just recreate it and paste it over there. There's always that option. I mean, if they could do it in 2000, I can do it today in modern technology, but that's just a first little tidbit that was kind of interesting to me. Okay, so let's start by looking at a scene that actually did require a little bit of editing. It's this scene where Toya is talking with his classmates about making the costumes. So you see here that he's sewing and he's talking to the girls. They do that little dance. You see this. This is the original sub footage. And then it cuts over here to Yoko. Now, if I take this out and I go back to our footage, we find that spot here. It's right here. So, same scene, but there's no dance this time. Had to cut that part out, and the way I accomplished cutting that out was basically by matching the frame of Toya's arm here until I got them lined up, and then just had to trim out what's there. So that's just a quick, easy thing to cut out. So you just had to get rid of them dancing. Not difficult. It's a fairly easy cut to make. So let's go on to one of the more complicated shots that I actually had to recreate here. Okay, so here is a shot that kind of threw me for a loop for a second here. It's still a relatively simple shot, but I believe it's a quirk of how the episode had to be cut for airing on TV, although I'm not sure if this episode actually ever aired on TV, but the breaks are the same anyway. And what this shot is is actually right after this fade out and fade back in. So, for whatever reason, the fade in on the DVD footage is just cut short. So I had to fill time, and what I did, as you can see here on this line, is that I've simply replicated that footage a few times just to extend it before it finally cuts over. And you can actually see there a little bit, I got that a little bit off. But as you can see now, she's more or less lined up. So for whatever reason, this was just cut short. So I just had to kind of duplicate this crowd shot a little bit in order to get this timing correct. Okay, so now let's look at a scene that actually took some editing magic to match to the footage. So up here, I have the DVD here, and I have my processed footage. So this is the Blu-ray footage that I have matched to the DVD. So we're gonna go through this real quick. So first off, after Tori turns around, the first thing we do is we see a reaction shot from Sakura where she lifts her head and she turns to Tomoyo. Okay, now I want you to keep that in mind because this is where the editing trickery comes from. So she's going to turn her head just like that. Next, the actors are going to play out their scene. We're going to get another reaction from Sakura. And then we're going to go through. We're going to cut to this reaction from Madison. We're going to do that. And then we're going to see the reaction from Sakura play out in reverse. This is the same one from earlier that we have reversed the shot a little bit, and that is to fill in a little bit of time. Why are we doing that? Because if we go down to the original footage, there we go. She lifts her head, turns to Tomoyo. They play out their scene. The reaction from Sakura, more scene. Then we should get a look from Tomoyo. There it is. And then you see that right here, they've actually removed that reaction shot from Sakura. And that's probably because they removed a little bit of this shenaniganery from the boys playing the stepsisters. So they basically just removed some of these scenes and glued in a scene from earlier to just kind of fill in the space. And now the last one that I want to show today is an instance where the Blu-ray actually is missing footage that was available in the DVD. And so far, while I've only edited 3 of these so far, this is the first instance where I found that the Blu-ray is actually less complete than the DVD. It's not a big deal, it's really only a matter of a few frames, but it was enough that caused syncing issues until I went through the footage frame by frame so that I could find it. So the scene is where mist is corroding the columns that cause Tori and Yoko to fall, and the main point is right here after this after that reaction. So you have the pillar here, and I'm just going to draw this through slowly. So you see the pillar begins to crack, and then it just cuts to Tori and Yoko. This is the Blu-ray footage. I haven't edited this footage at all. This is how I got it off the disc. So let's see what it looked like in the original DVD version. And as I drag this across, look what happens as the column starts to crack. We actually get to see the column break. I've actually dragged these together so that you can see it more clearly. So here's the DVD footage, here's the uncut Blu-ray footage. We're just going to show this again kind of slowly. Is that they begin to crack. And then while the Blu-ray footage, you saw it there, it cut to Tori and Yoko. Over here in the DVD footage, we actually had a few more frames of the pillar breaking. And I don't know why the Blu-ray doesn't include these frames. Again, for storytelling purposes, they're not important at all. But for syncing the footage, it was important. And it's the sort of thing that makes me wonder, if they cut this footage, if they cut a couple of corners here in the Blu-ray, what else did they cut? Like, again, certainly they didn't cut anything like out of the episodes, but I'm just wondering what other small bits of interesting footage they cut out of the Blu-ray. So that's just a quick look of some of the oddities that I found while editing the old DVD footage onto the Blu-ray footage, and discovered some of the tricks that they used to manipulate the Cardcaptors footage to fit into the time that they created by cutting footage out of it, and also just some oddities that happened when the series was transitioned to Blu-ray. I can't really explain why some of these changes were made, but that is the state of the series that we have, and now I have 3 of my episodes that are converted to 1080p format, and I guess I'm just going to keep doing that until I have the entire series in a nice, visually crisp format. Anyway, I hope that was interesting for you. I certainly had a lot of interesting fun making this. I considered streaming this process after I started discovering these quirks and figure there might be some more in the later episodes that I'm doing, but right now I think this is easier to just show you some of the stuff after the fact. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'm CCYamato, and I'll see you in the next video.